the Readers Theater from Schaumburg, Illinois.
And we will be performing The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Thursday.
By Douglas Adams.
Far out.
In the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy, there lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 98 million miles is a little blue-green planet whose primitive people still think that digital watches are a pretty neat idea.
One Thursday,
A terrible,
stupid catastrophe occurred.
The story begins with a house. Not a remarkable house by any means. The only person for whom this house was in any way special is Arthur Dent, and that is only because it happened to be the one he lived in.
At 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, Arthur woke up blearily, got up, put on his bathrobe, wandered around his room, opened a window and saw several big yellow bulldozers. He found his slippers and stomped off to the bathroom to wash. He drank a large glass of water.
Bulldozers.
15 seconds later, Arthur was out of the house, standing in the mud in front of a big yellow bulldozer that had been advancing up his garden path.
Ms. L. Prosser was, as they say,
Only human.
which in other words means she's a carbon-based bipedal life form.
Come off it, Mr. Dent. You can't stand in front of that bulldozer indefinitely. This expressway has got to be built. And it's going to be built.
Why's it got to be built?
What do you mean, why? It's an expressway. You've got to build expressways. You are quite entitled to make any suggestions or comments at the appropriate time, you know.
Appropriate time? The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at my home yesterday and said he'd come to demolish the house.
But, Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the local planning office for the last 9 months.
Yes, well, as soon as I heard, I went straight down to see them. You hadn't gone out of your way to call attention to them, had you? I mean, like, actually telling anybody?
The plans were on display.
On display? I had to go down to the cellar to find them.
That's the display department.
With a flashlight.
The lights had probably gone out.
So are the stairs.
But you found the notice, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It was on display in the bottom of the locked filing cabinet stuck in this used laboratory with a sign on the door saying,
Beware of the leopard.
Mr. Dent, do you have any idea how much damage that bulldozer will suffer if I let it run straight over you?
How much?
None at all. By a curious coincidence,
None at all.
is exactly how much suspicion Arthur Dent had that one of his closest friends was not descended from Earth, but was, in fact, from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse.
This friend of his had first arrived upon Earth some 15 Earth years previously and had worked hard to blend herself into Earth society, with some success. She had made one careless blunder, though. She had chosen the name
Ford Prefect,
thinking it would be nicely inconspicuous.
15 years is a long time to be stranded anywhere, particularly somewhere as mind-bogglingly dull as Earth.
Ford wished that a flying saucer would soon appear, because she knew how to flag down flying saucers and hitch rides on them.
Listen, I've got to tell you the most important thing you've ever heard, and I've got to tell it to you in the diner,
Why the diner?
because you're going to need a very filling drink.
But what about the house?
I'm sure we can come to some arrangement. Excuse me,
Yes? Has Mr. Dent come to his senses yet?
can we for a moment assume that he hasn't?
Well then,
And can we also assume that he's going to be staying here all day?
so?
So all your men are going to be standing around all day, doing nothing.
Could be.
Well, if you're resigned to doing that anyway, you don't actually need him to stand here all the time, do you?
What?
You don't actually need him here.
Well, no. Not as such. Not exactly need.
So if you'd just like to take it that he's actually here, we can slip off to the diner for half an hour. How does that sound?
That sounds reasonable.
So if you just come over and stand here.
What?
I'm sorry. Perhaps I hadn't made myself fully clear. Somebody's got to stand in front of the bulldozer, haven't they? Or else there won't be anything to stop them from knocking down Mr. Dent's house, will there?
Ford, what are you talking about?
You want me to come and stand there in front of the bulldozer instead of Mr. Dent.
Yes.
In the mud.
In, as you say, the mud.
In return for which you will take Mr. Dent with you down to the diner?
That's it. That's it exactly.
Promise.
Promise.
Ms. Prosser stepped forward nervously and felt the mud ooze into her shoes.
And no sneaking knocking down Mr. Dent's house when he's away, all right?
The thought hadn't even begun to speculate about the merest possibility of crossing my mind.
Good. Let's go, Arthur.
But can we trust her?
I trust her to the end of the year.
Oh yes, and how far is that?
About 12 minutes. Ah, here we are. Wait a minute. 6 milkshakes. And quickly, please. The world's about to end.
Oh, is it, ma'am? Well, nice weather for it. There you are, ma'am. 6 milkshakes.
Keep the change.
From a £5 note. Thank you, ma'am.
You've got 10 minutes to spend it.
Ford, would you please tell me what's going on?
Drink up. You've got 3 milkshakes to go through.
Why 3 milkshakes, just like that?
Sugar high!
You'll need it.
This must be Thursday. I could never get the hang of Thursdays.
All right. I'll try to explain. How would you react if I said I was from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice?
I don't know. Why? Do you think that's the sort of thing you're likely to say?
At that moment, from outside came a dull rumbling.
Crash! What's that?
Don't worry. They haven't started yet.
Thank goodness for that.
It's probably just your house being knocked down.
What? Oh no! They are! They're knocking down my house! Stop, you vandals, you homewreckers, you half-crazed Visigoths, all you hung, drawn, and quartered, and whipped, and boiled. Then I'll take all those pieces and I'll jump on them. Until, what's that?
Huge yellow somethings were
Screaming!
through the clouds. Impossibly huge yellow somethings. They tore apart the sky with mind-boggling noise and leapt off into the distance, leaving the gaping air to shut behind with a bang that drove your ears 6 feet into your skull.
A sudden silence hit the earth. The great ships hung motionless in the sky over every nation.
People of Earth, your attention, please. This is Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for the development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system. And, regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than, 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you.
Uncomprehending terror settled over the watching people of Earth.
Panic sprouted, desperate fleeing panic.
But
there was nowhere to flee.
Well, now there's no point in acting surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display in your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years. You've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaints. It's far too late to start making a fuss about it now.
Ready, Arthur?
Ready? Ready for what?
I'm rescuing you. The Earth is about to be demolished.
And just how are you going to rescue me from that?
We're hitching a ride on one of those spaceships.
Excuse me? Are you trying to tell me that we just stick out our thumbs and some green bug-eyed monster will poke its head out and say, "Hi, fellas, hop right in"?
Well, the thumb is the electronic sub-ether signaling device. But otherwise, that's more or less right.
Now I know it's Thursday.
This is it, Arthur. Up we go.
The huge ships turned slowly in the sky. On the underside of each, a hatchway opened, an empty black square. Suddenly, light poured out of the hatchways.
There was a terrible,
Ghastly noise!
There was a terrible,
ghastly silence. The Vogon constructor fleet coasted off into the inky, starry void.
Just another puny planet. I've no sympathy at all.